The Trump regime said today that Columbia University was refusing to help the Department of Homeland Security identify people for arrest on campus after immigration authorities detained a Palestinian activist and recent Columbia graduate over the weekend. Trump said yesterday that the arrest and disappearance of Mahmoud Khalil, who was involved in leading pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University last year, was just the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it, Trump wrote in a post on Truth Social. He said many are not students, they are paid agitators. We will find, apprehend and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. If you support terrorism, including the slaughtering of innocent men, women and children, your presence is contrary to our national and foreign policy interests, and you are not welcome here. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. To be clear, supporting the Palestinians is not an endorsement of the terrorist organization Hamas, contrary to Donald Trump's propaganda, nor is it against the law to express political beliefs that are opposed by the government. The First Amendment right to free speech is extended to all residents of the United States, even if they aren't citizens. Authorities silencing free speech that they don't like comes under the banner of authoritarianism. It is against the Constitution. It is against the law. And that is where Donald Trump is right now. Now, as of today, Khalil has not been charged with any crime. However, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was relying on a provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 that gives him broad power to expel foreigners if they give him reasonable ground to believe their presence in the U.S. has potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. As of yesterday morning, Khalil was being held at an immigration detention center near Jena in Louisiana. Last night, a federal judge in Manhattan barred his deportation, pending a hearing in his case set for tomorrow. The American Civil Liberties Union and the Center for Constitutional Rights have joined Khalil's legal team, led by his attorney Amy Greer. Amy Greer stated on Monday that she'd spoken with Khalil and that he was healthy and his spirits are undaunted by his predicament. Today, 13 members of Congress, led by the Palestinian-American U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib, issued a letter demanding his immediate release. Reports indicated that his arrest on the weekend, and remember he's a permanent U.S. resident, a recent Columbia University graduate, that his arrest was prompted by a State Department directive to revoke his green card, a move that is illegal under U.S. law. Trump claimed that Khalil was taken into custody by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement under his executive order. Without providing evidence, he alleged that others participating in similar campus protests are also paid agitators. Again, completely false. Khalil was raised in a Palestinian refugee camp in Syria. He played a key role as a negotiator between Columbia University officials and demonstrators during last year's Gaza Solidarity encampment. Khalil was arrested on Saturday night at his university-owned apartment located near Columbia's main campus in New York. ICE agents reportedly entered the building and detained him. Emails reveal that a day before his arrest, Khalil contacted Columbia's interim president, Katrina Armstrong, requesting protection. In his email, he described being the target of a dehumanizing doxing campaign led by people connected to the university. I haven't been able to sleep, fearing that ICE or a dangerous individual might come into my home, Khalil wrote on the 7th of March. He urged the university to provide legal assistance and protection. In a letter from Monday, Armstrong denied allegations that Columbia's leadership had requested ICE's presence on or near the campus. Initially, it was reported that Khalil was being held at an immigration center in New Jersey. However, his pregnant wife later indicated that she could not locate him there. She literally couldn't find him. By Monday morning, records suggested he'd been transferred to this LaSalle detention facility in Louisiana. Civil rights organizations, free speech advocates, and some New York City officials condemned Khalil's arrest, describing it as a violation of the First Amendment and an alarming misuse of immigration enforcement. A federal judge in Manhattan scheduled a hearing for Wednesday to review Khalil's legal challenge against his detention. Trump's decision to have immigration authorities arrest a pro-Palestinian activist for alleged support of Hamas is an attack on free speech. That's not my opinion. That is the view of the American Civil Liberties Union. That was their warning. This arrest is unprecedented, illegal, and un-American, said Ben Wisner, director of the American Civil Liberties Union's Speech, Privacy, and Technology Project. The federal government is claiming the authority to deport people with deep ties to the U.S. and revoke their green cards for advocating positions that the government opposes. To be clear, the First Amendment protects everyone in the U.S. The government's actions are obviously intended to intimidate and chill speech on one side of a public debate. Columbia issued a revised protocol for how students and school staff should deal with federal immigration agents seeking to enter private school property, saying they could enter without a judicial arrest warrant in exigent circumstances, which it did not specify. By allowing ICE on campus, Columbia is surrendering to the Trump administration's assault on universities across the country and sacrificing international students to protect its finances, the student workers of Columbia said in a statement. The move to arrest and detain Palestinian student activist Mahmoud Khalil comes after the Trump administration announced last week that it would revoke about $400 million in federal grants and contracts from Columbia University. The Trump regime alleges that the university has not done enough to stop anti-Semitism on campus. Universities must comply with all federal anti-discrimination laws if they're going to receive federal funding. For too long, Columbia has abandoned that obligation to Jewish students studying on its campus, the Education Secretary Linda McMahon said in a statement on Friday. Mahmoud Khalil's arrest is the first publicly known deportation effort under Trump's promised crackdown on students who joined protests against the war in Gaza that swept college campuses last spring. The Trump regime falsely claimed that participants forfeited their rights to remain in the country by supporting Hamas, when their support is simply for the Palestinian people. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.